Hey, everybody, welcome to the Ivy League of Chicago Cubs podcast. We are here. This is fifth episode, guys. We are moving. I am Marco, the haircut Santana, and we got Ethan Crash Davis and Rob, don't call me Bobby Osterman. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to our show. Guys, how are you, man? How are you guys doing? How was the week?
Good.
Yeah, we're looking good, man. We're on pace to what is this? We're recording on the 6th, so we're about 9 days away from opening day, or eight or something. I forgot what day it is. Like 10 days away, I think.
I think it's the 15th, isn't it?
But
it's the 18th, right?
I believe so, something like that, 17th or 18th. But the bottom line, though, is our next episode will be our season preview. We're doing a little bit of that today, but I think we're doing predictions next week. Getting it really into the weeds of how this team looks breaking camp. And it's funny because we're going to break camp. They're going to go to Japan. They're going to come back, and we're going to break camp a second time, and then go to Chicago. So it'll be an interesting sequence there. What's going on with you guys? What's new today? We are talking a lot about the roster, so that we're going to get into that soon. But how was your week? Anything cool happen to you guys?
Well, work and coming home, the old ball and chain. No, I had to throw that in there. But no, I'm excited. We finally lost the spring training game. And yeah. I bring that up because I was listening to Ian Happ's Compound podcast earlier, and he said, I was so happy. I've never been happier to lose a game ever, because you can't have a perfect spring training, because that just sets you up to fail the first
sets the tone a little too high, right?
But I felt like we were watching some soccer the way we were tying so many games.
Man. Not to mention we got Shaw back in there. He had a nice little game the other day. Rob, how's your week been?
2 hit.
Yeah.
Week's been good. Just it's kind of a lull in tax season right now. So
right.
So
you're gonna be
a day off today for a change.
I feel like in mid-April we're gonna see Rob come out with like smoke coming out of his head.
There's gonna be a day or two there where I'm just gonna fall asleep in the truck or something. I don't know. Anyway, no, the week's been good. Cubs baseball's been good. I too am excited that we finally lost the game. I watched that segment of Happer's podcast as well.
Well, the Cubs
it's a good thing.
Once they lost the game, I'm like, okay, we're screwed. We're only going to win 50 games this year. This is terrible.
You're the minority in that, my friend.
Forget all the optimism. I knew they were going to fuck it all up. But no, all kidding aside, great spring training. It's going to be good. I mean, regardless of how they finish up, we're seeing some young kids get some at bats and make the best of them, and really kind of they're really putting some pressure on Council, right? When it comes to roster construction. We were talking earlier, and we'll get into the roster later, but Alcantara, is he going to be breaking camp, or where's he going to be? You just don't know, because you got Gage now coming in, also looking for a roster spot. But other than that, man, let's jump into this, right? Spring training, guys. We are 9-2, and I didn't see what we did today, but we're looking pretty good.
We got a game going on right now, actually.
Yeah, it's live.
Nice.
It's 2-0 Kansas City.
Okay, we'll count on Rob for frequent updates.
Top of the fourth.
But I think it's exciting, right? And we're gonna go back to what we said last week, and we're gonna say this: spring training is nothing. But you know what? You can get some momentum, bring it in season, have a nice little early season run if you have everybody excited. I think that's kind of what we're looking at, right, guys?
Well, yeah, and it's not spring training doesn't mean anything for certain players.
Right.
Like, the Ian Happs and Kyle Tuckers of the world, they're just working on certain things, getting warmed up per se. But for people like Gage Workman, who is a Rule 5 pick, he has the most pressure out of anybody in spring training outside of maybe Matt Shaw. And he comes in and steps up the way he has, plays the way he has, with the power, the versatility on offense, and the fantastic glove at defense. I think certain performances definitely matter more in spring training.
And
I'll add a note to that, though. I think Gage's success actually takes some pressure off of Shaw, because if Shaw doesn't do well, he's still pretty young and could still he only had half a season at AAA, three-quarters of a
barely.
season, something like that. Not even. I mean, Shaw could still take a year in AAA and develop if that's the route that it goes.
Yeah.
So I think that takes a little bit of pressure off of Shaw. But,
and another thing about it is I'm like, when I say what I'm about to say, I'm not trying to say we have a 120 win team on our hands, right? I think most of our positions are settled of who's going to be there, who's going to be starting, who's going to be back up. Third base, because of Workman's just rabid little run here, is the only real question mark we have now. As far as like who's going to start, you know what I mean? Like I'm not saying that we're going to have like this, like we're perfect in every position. However, from how our roster is constructed, we have, I would say, at least above average options at every position. And now we have a Workman Shaw as the only kind of position battle heading into the regular season.
Yeah. I'm curious what happens with Birdie and Brujan, because at this point I'm assuming that Workman makes the opening day roster.
Yeah, it's gonna be tough.
Based on performance. He almost has to.
Right.
So
but this is a good problem to have
with Birdie and Brujan when Nico comes back. Who's the odd man out there? You know.
Well, and this is a question you got to be asking if you're Craig Counsell and the Cubs. Did we finally find something with Brujan? Did that conversation with Sammy Sosa stick with him? Or is he just another Albert Almora where he's going to have a fantastic spring training and shit the bed in the regular season? If I'm the Cubs, I think I'm going to lean more towards Gage Workman, Matt Shaw getting a roster spot over Brujan because, either they get some cash considerations or another minor leaguer for Brujan or he clears waivers. I just don't think what we've seen from Brujan so far the past few seasons before he came to the Cubs that he's worth taking a roster spot from Shaw or Workman. That's just he's been doing great, but that's how I feel at this point. I just don't think
it's funny because we were talking about this before about the roster earlier today, and you look at there's 26 on the roster, and there's probably 27, 28 that deserve it right now. Like realistically, could be on the roster, right? I think
at this moment, yeah.
I think there's some good, like you said, it's a good problem to have. I think Counsell's gonna have some decisions to make when it comes time to break it. I feel like the Japan trip is gonna give him some leeway, right? Because with Nico not going there, you have an extra roster spot that you can kind of stash someone away to see, maybe give him some. Not that you're trying out when it's an actual regular season game, but you have a little more tools on the bench to figure out how they fit within the overall puzzle of the Cubs roster. Now that you do have Nico kind of taking probably not going or not going to Japan. I like that. And like you said, Ethan, it's a good problem to have. We're not like we don't talk about this because we're fretting anything or we're on one side or the other. I'm not talking smack about any of the. I think we have good talent, but there is a numbers game, and that's it's a lot better than like last year when you're like, do we even have a full team to field?
Right. I'll take this extreme versus the other, honestly, especially with what we dealt with last year.
Oh, 100%, 100%. Man. We're looking at the roster today. It's gonna be I think it's gonna be a fun conversation to talk about who's in, who's out. I saw something today, and I shared it with you guys before, and it made me cringe laugh. Because there's this element of Cub fandom that just can't move on from 2016. Guys, we're 1 year shy of that being a freaking decade past, which is I mean, that's not good because we haven't done another one. But what I'm talking about is Anthony Rizzo. There's this poll out there on WGN Radio that they posted this afternoon. Actually said, should the Cubs bring back Rizzo? It's a silly question, right? It comes from a good spot, right? I get it. Nostalgia. We love Rizzo, and he's out there floundering in free agency. He won't take a pay cut or anything like that, or at least he wants market value, which may not be what he thinks it is. But 71% said bring Rizzo back. I am so
71%.
I am
71% put emotion before feeling.
I am so happy that we have this podcast to discuss how terrible of an idea that would be.
I misspoke, but 71% of people put feelings in front of facts. That's what that tells me.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I love Rizzo.
100%.
And I will never not love Anthony Rizzo
Right. Oh, 100%.
as a Cub. And I even liked him as a Yankee for a couple of years.
Meh.
But but how is that even a question, dude?
Yeah,
like how is that even something that garners 500 that garners what would 70% of 500 be?
Yeah, like
355 people
like that. Yeah.
say
you're the accountant here,
yes.
man. You tell me.
Like that's why did we sign Justin Turner if we're gonna look at Anthony Rizzo?
Well,
and he can only play first base too.
Yeah, why do we have John Birdie on the roster? Why do we want an old ass Michael Bush when we have Michael Bush?
Right. I really wish, to be honest, I wish WG and Radio. Let me kind of take it to the people who are responsible for this. I think I wish they would have done some other poll question about the Cubs. There's so many other questions we could have asked about the Cubs going into the season, and they choose a Rizzo. And I get it. They're catering to the nostalgic, which we have way too many nostalgia fans not on board with the present look Chicago Cubs. But yeah, man, to put that up there as a legitimate poll question, I don't know, man. I think again, I feel I need to say this every time these guys come up. 1,000% appreciative of what they did. They will never buy a beer in Chicago ever again. They will never, they may even get their meals comped anywhere they go. And I'm talking all the way down to Almora. I'm talking one all the way down on the roster. But yeah, it's what frankly, it's way past time to kind of move on from that team. And we have a new team. We have a new look, and it's exciting.
It's exciting to get a new core, isn't it?
Yeah,
it is. I think if the question was, should we bring back Rizzo on a one-day contract so he can retire as a Cub if he wants to? Absolutely.
Well, even that, he probably asked for $3 million or some crazy crap because he said he doesn't want to bring the value down for other players. And if he's being honest, I guess it's a noble effort, but that means you're probably going to not be signed this year because that's a lot of money that you're asking as the average thing to keep the rates up.
Yeah, a team like the White Sox or the Marlins or hell, even the Pirates would probably sign him to a league minimum deal. So right. I know he's gotten offers. He has to have, but
right.
Nobody's going to pay you $2.5-3 million on a 1-year deal with what your recent injury history has shown, along with your age.
Well, you bring up a good point. The White Sox might, because they're not very smart over there right now, so they might just bring him in and give him first base, and they'll double their team home run total from last year to one guy. But that's my weekly Sox rant. So we look at the roster here, and I want to take a look at it kind of piece by piece. Let's start with infield and catchers, right? We are Miguel Amaya. I'll start with him. I'm excited to see his 1 more year of growth, and with Carson Kelly there alongside him. I think they are doing right by Miguel Amaya. I feel the way they're kind of bringing him along semi-slowly, but also last year once he ran with it, they just said get out there every day, and I love that about it. How are you guys looking at the catcher position and infield too?
Well, Miguel Amaya, what I said earlier about how spring training matters more to me for some players.
Yeah,
Miguel Amaya's been hot so far, so that tells me he's building off of the changes he made to his leg kick and his offensive stability last season. So if we can get Miguel Amaya to be a league average hitter and just throw out 5% more batters. Stealing, runners, batters. My bad. Well, if he can catch 5% more runners stealing and be a league average hitter, oh my God, the difference that'll make.
Hey, if he throws out batter still, that would be legendary. I mean, I don't even know what that means, but that would be legendary, whatever it is.
You guys act like you've never missed.
Just for reference, last year, Amaya approached league average in caught stealing. He was about 2% below league average.
Yeah, what was the league average? League average was terrible.
20.
Because of the new,
league average was 20%.
The new dimensions or whatever.
And so 1.5%.
Okay.
To be
Yeah.
To be specific.
Like I like him.
If he can throw out about 5 to 10% more, that's
guys. Am I right in the
league average?
Am I right in this? I think the eye test also. Like you just felt late in the year that he was much more fundamentally sound, much more. I mean, like than he was at the beginning of the season. I'm not saying he was, he's going to be an all-star or anything like that, but I felt like once he got comfortable and once his bat kind of came around, he became a much more. I don't know what it is about that. I feel like I had a lot more patience with him behind the plate once his bat came around. He seemed a little more comfortable.
I think people forget that he's 25.
Yeah.
He's only been a pro since the beginning of his age 24 year. I mean, he's about to turn 26. But so he's only been a pro for a season and 3/4 what's his service time? 1.1 years of service time.
You mean MLB, not pro. Pro because AAA is pro. But like, you mean MLB,
right? True.
Yeah.
But he's got just a little over 1 year of service time total.
Right.
He's only 25, 26, let's call it, by the time opening day rolls around.
Mm-hmm.
And his age 22 or 23 season, he dealt with a major setback injury-wise. The kid's still the prospect that we knew and loved.
Yeah.
I think he's finding himself, and I think when that bat is there, the rest of his game follows. Kind of what you said there is right. as he finds his groove, the rest of it follows.
It's a comfort level. It's really a comfort level, I think. We talk about like the young guys. We got Michael Busch as well. Obviously, I think if I were to as excited as I am about Seiya at DH, and we talked about it in previous episodes, I'm really excited to see how Michael Busch comes back in his sophomore season, because you can sophomore slump and be a freaking albatross in the lineup, or if he just puts up what he put up last year, I would be perfectly happy with that.
Yeah, and I think
a good thing on the golf course,
not so much on the baseball field.
Right.
But I don't know. I come back to saying spring training matters more to some people than it does others, right. And he's so far been the best Cactus League player. Which the grand scheme of things, how much does that matter? Well, that's up for debate. But for him to be already getting in the groove in spring, hitting home runs, getting extra base hits, he looks comfortable. Yeah. I think he's found his game. He knows who he is as a player. And I think I would expect a slightly better season. I think he's going to keep building off that rookie year success. And
he's a guy that we already know he can hit major league pitching. He proved that last year. So this isn't like a flash in the pan spring fluke, you know what I mean? We know it's not just he's beating up on spring training pitchers. We know he can hit major league pitching.
And there's something to be said too about in Cactus League. A lot of these pitchers, there's not much data on them because they're the minor league guys. Right, yeah, so for somebody, at any level, to be able to come in and dissect the pitching and react to it, I think that's not worth nothing. That's got to be worth something, So
especially as a young kid.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean,
so speaking of young kids and spring training stats, you guys seen Ben Cowles thus far this season or this spring training?
Mm-hmm.
Holy cow! I mean, he leads Cactus League, or he leads all of spring training in doubles. He also has some of the larger strikeout numbers.
Right.
But, young guy. And it's been really exciting. I've been excited to watch him. That's the one guy that like within the next year or two,
Mm.
I'm really excited to see where he goes.
Him and Ivan Brett Howard. We have some names that we haven't heard of
Well, yeah,
before this spring. And you're thinking, oh my, this is the reason our farm system is ranked so high. It's not just about the guys that are coming up this year next. I mean, we've got a deep farm system.
Yep.
And, Cubs, like you were talking about earlier, not letting 2016 go. I think the reason people have clung to that was just how quickly that core fell apart and how things just went so downhill after that. And to me, as someone who wants to not just be one and done once a decade and wants to, keep that sustained success, that excites the crap out of me to see that farm system so deep, because it's not just you have guys coming up that are playing well, you have trade bait.
Right.
Especially when coming up here, if we need an extra piece or two at the deadline and we're in contention, I mean, there's a lot to be excited about, and spring training has just brought all of that to fruition. For me,
this team has been built on sustainability and long term, right? We saw how quickly that fell apart, and so those of us who've been patient have seen it from 3, 4, 5 years back, right? What they were doing. We didn't like it. We didn't like the results that were happening. But if you had an eye toward the future, it seemed every offseason they did the right thing. And every season they, like, even bringing up PCA at the end of 23 was a great move, even though he was over, but it was still getting his feet wet, right? So he didn't have to do that, get his feet wet in the first part of 24 and see what happened to him, right? He got on a roll at the end. Now he's so confident, he's arrogant, which is great. I'm excited to see kind of the next level of all these guys.
Yeah, a few years before 20 and 23 was disappointing ending, but it was a fun year, right? But 2021 and 2022 were rough. So I just want to take a brief moment. Thanks, Frank Schwindel. Thanks, Patrick Wisdom. You were the beacon of light in a very dark time.
Nah, they were nah.
I said brief period. Frank Schwindel went on that 3-month tear, and then back to being minor leaguer, and more or less the same with Patrick Wisdom. If there was ever a guy in the past 5 years that played for the Cubs, it was home run or nothing. It was Wisdom. I digress.
Absolutely. Oh, yeah. And then when he stopped hitting home runs, he was like, okay, then get the hell out of here. So going around, we got Amaya, we got Bush. Of course, we got Dansby at short. We're looking at we're looking at Gage Workman now, kind of battling Matt Shaw, who just came back this week and had a great day the other day. Gage Workman, I mean, talk about him a little bit, guys. I mean, that's one of those things where every successful team, probably most successful teams, get a surprise breakout, right? He might be it.
He looks like that on defense, and he's got the offensive numbers right now to back it up so far in Cactus League play. So, I mean, you knew the defense was going to be there. I mean, that's what all the scouting reports said. But for him to come out in that first game, and I know, again, it's spring training.
Right.
Doesn't matter. With all the pressure he had, for him to just hit that absolute piss missile the first game, that was just, whoa, this guy's here. He wants to be here.
Right. Always love that term.
Proof. Yeah, after a few beers at the golf course, that term gets used quite a bit when you shake it to the left. But no, I think the defense being there is huge. But we knew that. But the offense, that shocked me, and I hope he keeps building on this success. And to me, for him to have as much pressure as he has, being a Rule 5 pick, to come in and dominate like this, that carries. Because, the pressure is only going to build once he gets to regular season games, possibly playoffs this year.
Yeah, for sure.
I mean, and that's what you like to see. You like to see a guy that can handle pressure.
So, obviously, Dansby's a lock. Bush is a lock as the starter, with some spelling from Turner, probably.
Yeah.
So, what are we thinking at this moment? Is Birdie the starting second baseman on opening day?
Because Nico's hurt. Probably.
And is there a path for Workman to work at third and Shaw to take second until Nico gets back? or for them to kind of swap back and forth, second and third.
I mean, but Nico's going to be back. Isn't Nico going to be back like opening day, like quote unquote regular opening day?
He'll be back like the first week or so.
Yeah. I mean, I think Council, knowing Council, he's going to play it by ear, right? I think that's a very lame answer, but I think that's the way he does it, right? I think you're right. Both of them could play there, and I think, but yeah, I don't know.
I don't think Council knows until the day or two before, honestly, and that's not necessarily a bad thing,
right?
But
that's just how you got to do it sometimes, right? You just feed your pants, man.
I will say, it'd be nice to see Gage Workman and Matt Shaw play, second, third, those first two games. But I think when you have a team as lethal as a pitching staff as the Dodgers, you want that extra speed, and Birdie definitely has that speed, and he's great on the base path. So if I were to guess, I think he might be playing some second those first games in Japan.
Yeah, and that's
I agree.
That'd be interesting to see, because I think it's funny. It's day one and already caused us to do some mixing and matching that he wasn't expecting to. But let's run out to the outfield a little bit, because I think this is where things are a lot more settled. I think
it's pretty cut and dry in the outfield, isn't it?
What's that?
It's pretty cut and dry in the outfield, isn't it?
That's what I'm saying. It's settled over there. Yeah, like Tucker, PCA, Ian Happ stay as DH. Alcantara, will he make the big club? We're gonna find out. And the thing is, like, I think, again, not that they're like 4 Hall of Famers, but there are 4 very solid options at each of those specific positions. I love what we have when it comes to versatility. I mean, PCA is fast as hell. Ian Happ's arm is underrated, obviously. He's more accurate than Armstrong, I think, but he gets the play. He makes the plays when they have to be made.
Ian Happ as a player is kind of underrated by fans, I think.
Yeah, a lot of people, not just fans of the Cubs, but like
right.
league wide. He only gets attention for his glove, but he's a consistent hitter year in and year out. He's going to hit for 250 at least. He's going to be good for 15 homers or more. And he's a switch hitter, which is valuable. Not enough credit to Ian Happ.
He's very stoic, I feel, and that's kind of like not a lot of emotion. I think that's kind of like that might be part of the in today's world of like showy players. Which, by the way, I love showy players. It's just he is so like even keel. Even in his podcast, he's very even keel and doesn't really get too excited one way or another. But I wonder if that kind of bites into his perception of his passion and how how much he does love the game. But you watch the podcast, you can tell he loves the game. So I'm excited about Alcantara, guys. Again, I don't know if he's going to be their opening day or not. He might be one of the people squeezed out. I don't know. Maybe they want to get him more at bats down in AAA so he gets consistent at bats. There's always something like that. But
I think it's between Alcantara and Brujan there, like we were kind of talking about earlier. That's really the only to me. That's the only position player question mark on our 13 position players.
You mean like utility bench player?
Is
right?
that 13th spot? You know, is it gonna be Brujan because he's so versatile, or is it gonna be Alcantara because he's a young, absolute stud who deserves a shot?
And I just think, Rob, the problem with that is I don't like. Personally, I don't think there's a wrong answer, but do you want Alcantara to be wasting away on your bench? I do. I would rather have him on my bench, personally, because I like his upside. But at the same time, is that detrimental to his development? Because he's
only 22, man.
Yeah, and he hasn't had a lot of opportunities.
I don't think he's had a full season in Iowa yet.
Yeah. But that's what I'm saying.
I'd kind of personally rather see where he goes with this season in Iowa. Yeah. And if we extend Tucker or we...
Well, I think I'm just excited because he's a new toy.
Yeah, for sure.
Great. Yeah.
I think if, something's got to give in the outfield with one of our 4 primary outfielders for him to have a path to the bigs.
Right.
Hap's going to be here for at least one more season. Seiya is going to be here for at least one more season, unless a big trade comes down the pipeline, which isn't entirely out of the question, but maybe also not very likely, And if Alcantara tears it up in Iowa, maybe we trade Tucker to a contender at the end of the year if he's not doing so hot, and stick Alcantara in right field. I don't know. I don't know. I'm not going to pretend to know the answer to that.
I think that was not the question as far as Tucker here, whatever he does. But I see what you're saying, though, and I mean it's good to have like backup options, like when it comes to 2026 even. But let's take care of this year first.
Yeah.
Right, and he's 22 years old. He's still got tons of minor league options.
Yeah, I keep forgetting how young he is.
Right, but he reminds me of Fernando Tatis. I'm a big guy on the Jaguar. I think he's going to be great, but you got to keep in mind too, it's a 162 game season. People are going to get hurt. I think to keep the Jaguar down in Iowa until there's an outfield injury, which is, knock on wood, never, hopefully not too serious, but people always get hurt. Yeah. It's such a long season. So
somebody's going to pull a hammy.
Right. I'm with Rob. Let him get some AAA at bats, consistent at bats, play often. And then, once the need for him to play for a couple of weeks arises, that's when you would bring him up. But I don't think we have to worry about Kyle Tucker getting traded. We gave up quite a bit to get him. I'm still in the club of we're going to extend him.
Me too. I don't think that's truthfully, I'm right there with you. Just, I like the theory crafting exercises.
It's fun. But the other thing is too, Seiya Suzuki, his bat is too good to not be in the lineup. PCA is showing his bat, and he's so electric on the base pass. People literally, professional athletes are afraid of him on the base pass. They literally miss easy throws because they're worried about what he's going to do. And then you have Ian Happ, who's just the poster boy for consistency, and he's a switch hitter. So I don't think outside of injury, we're going to see the Jaguar play much this year. I just don't know where he would fit in.
I mean, roster. He might be the trade chip we're talking about in the summer. It's better if we're looking to get someone really good.
And if we need that, then that's a bridge we can cross in August, right?
Yeah. Let's talk a little bit about the Shota experience. We saw the New York Times and the Athletic kind of highlight Shota the other day. This guy is we have a couple of aces, man, and I think that's great. We've been talking about the lineup all day so far today, but you look at the rotation. I mean, even like when Tyon is on, he can be a 2-3 level pitcher, right? When he's on, let's be clear, because sometimes he's not on for a while.
I mean,
but when you got Shota leading off, especially in Tokyo, in front of his people have seen him. He's gonna. I would not be surprised if that game is 0-0 through 6.
Now, and you brought up Jameson Taillon, which okay, his first year with us was atrocious.
Yeah,
I totally get that, and I feel like that has put a bad stain in people's view of him. But there was that article that I sent you guys, and pretty quietly, he was 6th in National League ERA last year.
Yeah.
In September, he had a 0.84 ERA while allowing just one home run. So if he can keep that up, mixed with Shota and Steele, I mean, there's a reason we didn't dump $200 million on a starting pitcher, because I don't really think we needed it. Yeah. I think Shota brings the swagger too. That cannot go unnoticed. I've got an attachment to Shota. I was at CubsCon when he gave his speech, which, by the way, I have never seen a speech rile up a crowd like that. And I was at the no-hitter. That man.
Oh, really?
In his veins. Yeah, dude,
that's cool.
It was crazy.
Well, he's a showman, right? I mean, but he reserves the showman. He's not like a brash, kind of an obnoxious showman, which, again, I will say I love
like
obnoxious
Soto.
showmanship. But he's very kind of he's very reserved, but he knows he lets the emotion kind of lead his reaction rather than the other way around. I think he's very smart when he reacts to clutch strikeouts, right? He's excited, so we know he has the emotion, and that makes him so much more likable when he's just slow and steady wins the race type of guy, you know.
Well, not just that, but you got to think of what the impact does on the team in general. And
Right.
Cubs were 23-6 in his starts last year, and that has to mean something. And it's not just pitchers win loss, but when the team has that positive of a win loss with you, and then it's very negative without you, that shows the impact you're having. I think the Athletic said his contractual value was like $24 million last year. He was playing like a pitcher and we're getting him for a lot cheaper than that.
Well, think about that. Do the math, right? That means the Cubs were 60 and 73 with every other pitcher. I mean, without him, we're very, very low in the standing. Not even, and we'd be done by August last year. No, he's great. He's great because he can take take on the other team's ace, or he can just dominate the other team's third pitcher, right? Depending on how the rotations fall, you know. So, we're talking about this, Rob and Ethan. We've been talking about this like this kind of embarrassment of riches right now with starting pitchers.
Yeah,
we have a good number.
We haven't even mentioned freaking Justin Steele,
right?
Who quietly went to a 3.0 something ERA the last 2 years.
We are the only podcast. I'm gonna make a claim here. We're probably the only podcast to talk about the Cubs rotation for 4 minutes without mentioning Justin Steele.
Probably.
But anyway, go on, Rob. I apologize.
No, that's all right. I mean, I'm excited to see what Steele brings to the table because even with his injury recovery last year, he just about matched his best year yet as far as statistics go.
Yeah.
He's going into his age 29 season.
Yeah.
I think he's primed to. If I'm honest, he's primed to go one way or the other. Probably. Might see a little regression, but with the kind of work he puts in, I think he's poised to.
Well, he's super
step it up even a little more.
Well, he's super crafty. His pitch angles, he's so smart with that.
2.5 pitches,
and I guarantee he's like remember way back in the day when it was like Greg Maddux, and he would go away for a week for a winter and come back with something completely different, and you're like, how the hell does this already Hall of Fame level pitcher think he has to work on? And he would, and he'd get better, right? So next thing you know, now he's even more dominant. I feel like Steele is one of those guys who he might come in with a new pitch this year. You just never know.
They've been talking about it, right? I can't remember if it was improved changeup or what, but that's scary to think of Justin Steele with another pitch.
No, it's scary for them, not for me. I think it's great.
No, I love it. It makes me happy.
I'm not scared.
Little point here.
Yeah, I'm
PCA just singled.
There we go.
Stole second. Stole third. And we didn't score off of it, but he just made it to third off of a single.
Now, let's make sure. I'm going to have to watch the highlights and make sure he stole them because these scorekeepers are giving him inside the park home run for that one thing where it's like just.
I mean, that was clearly an error.
No. That's not a home run, guys.
It didn't get officially scored a home run.
No, I know, but a lot of people are saying,
no,
that's not how it works. That's not how we're getting to make shit up. But again, I don't want to move on to the bullpen a little bit, but very briefly, Ben Brown, he's going to have some spot starts this year, and I feel he will, right? Because we had so many injuries last year. I'm now assuming we're going to use 8 to 10 starters, right? But give me a little bit on Ben Brown, what you guys are looking at this summer or probably the spring, how he's been kind of handling himself.
You can go ahead, Rob. I'll let you.
Well, I got a pretty strong opinion on Ben Brown.
Yeah.
I like him. I love him.
Yeah.
However, I think by the end of 2026, he's a back-end bullpen arm and a damn good one. But I just don't see him as long-term starter material. I love his stuff. I think his stuff would be even better if he dialed it in, dialed it up, and only pitched 20 pitches every other day.
And that's for now, right?
That's my...
Yeah.
I mean, I hope he proves me wrong and he's our,
right.
3.5 ERA fifth starter for the next 7 years. That's perfectly fine with me. But that's my strong opinion on Ben Brown.
You know what's amazing to me is that you mentioned a 3.5 fifth starter ERA, and that's like elite level fifth starter ERA. But he could do that. But he could do that, yeah. And again, that goes back to what our rotation is built. Ethan, what are your thoughts on Ben Brown? Kind of what his upside is?
Well, I mean, last year 7 no-hit innings. That can't be forgotten.
Yeah.
I think he's proved that he's got the ability to be a starter. I see him in a Javier Assad type role where I think they're going to keep him, doing some bullpen sessions with his pitch count higher and keep him in that versatile where he can be a starter. But I don't know. It depends. Javier Assad's hurt, so I think that bodes well for Ben Brown.
Door's open.
The door is open, and I think how he does, because if I'm being honest, I think him and Ray are probably going to be splitting starts during Javier Assad's absence. So it's his for the taking, that fifth starter role, in my opinion. I honestly, if I had to choose, I know Javier Assad. I love him. He's a phenomenal pitcher, very underrated, but he can barely make it 5 innings without getting to 100 pitches.
I think the beauty of
Javier Assad's better in the bullpen, personally.
I think the beauty of it is, though, even as a team, the Cubs, they don't have to choose, right? Because they have both arms. They have both arms to keep kind of and remember way back in the day there was that in Dusty we trusty, in Council I trusty. I do believe that Council has a good read on this whole situation. So
I can't think of a rhyme.
In Council. Yeah, I trust Council's counsel. Maybe
I'll think of something by next week.
Council's counsel, man. But moving on, let's go to the bullpen. Sports Illustrated finally caught up to us. We've been talking about this bullpen for a long time. A long time. We only had 5 episodes. We've been talking about this bullpen for quite a bit. But the other day they posted something that said Chicago Cubs bullpen could be better than expected this season.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
You don't say.
I mean, we're not the only ones saying it, but it's pretty cool though to see that there are listen, we can sometimes accidentally or intentionally, I know with me it's accidental, see things through a homer's lens, right? Like we love the Cubs and everybody they signed is like, oh my God, he's gonna win a Cy Young. We're gonna get 7 Cy Young finalists, but not really. But you know what I mean? Like we get this on this run. We get on this run, and there's this we're gonna get 3 Silver Sluggers and all that kind of stuff. But
that's not too far.
It's really one of those things where it's cool to see other media outlets and from even national publications, even though I know they have the local guys now at Sports Illustrated, but that are kind of echoing what we're saying.
So, absolutely. I didn't read the article about from SI, but absolutely. This bullpen, and I know we're going to get to it in a couple minutes here, but as I was putting together the roster for us this week and kind of putting what is tentatively the 26 man together.
Yeah.
Holy cow, the bullpen was hard to choose because obviously you've got a few guys in there, but those last 2 to 3 to 4 guys, I don't know. There's like 4 slots in there.
Well, we got
about 9 different dudes could conceivably fill.
Well, we got Luke Little, we got Eli Morgan, we got Merriweather, we got Pearson and Brazier as our relief pitchers. Porter Hod set up, which by the way, I think setup is going to be very much set up by matchup type of thing.
Yeah.
And then Presley with our closer, who has the closer experience. I think Hodge will be there by the end of the year. At least as like I think he'll get 5 to 7 saves, right? Even if Presley is our main closer, they're going to give Hodge some looks in the situation. He's likely the closer of the future. So they're going to want. I think
the plan for him, right?
Yeah, they're going to want to put him in there in those situations like he did last year a couple times to look at him a little more. Man, but to your point, Rob, that's a deep bench.
Yeah, because you got Luke Little, and I think with all the people available, you gotta have the Luke Little in there.
Yeah,
you gotta have that fireball lefty, as long as he can keep himself under control.
How will we survive losing Drew Smiley? That's my question.
Very well.
I don't know, man. I don't know. But Eli Morgan's got to find a home in the bullpen, right?
Yeah.
You bet your ass he does.
You got to learn,
boy.
There's almost no question about that one. And, then we got Nate Pearson, Jack Neely, Julian Merriweather. Killian's had a solid spring as far as strikeouts go. Right. Gave up a few runs, but he's looked pretty good. Keegan Thompson hasn't looked terrible. Brandon Birdsell is another one that I was almost going to put in the bullpen, a la Justin Steele in, what was that, 2021, 22?
Yeah, I will say this about Keegan. You brought him up, but Keegan Thompson, he's out of minor league options. So I think if we do see him on the roster, he starts screwing up a couple games and he's gone.
Yeah.
So I don't know if.
Yeah, he's he on his last legs. I mean, I've been a huge Keegan fan for a while, but you can't get it together on a consistent basis, and that comes down to we have the arms to make him expendable if he doesn't perform, right? And that comes down to a really good roster construction that ends up costing Keegan a job. Again, he could just move the south side; he'll be fine.
Well, if I'm being honest, I don't know if how deep the bullpen we've got. If Keegan Thompson's even worth a roster spot. If I'm the Cubs right now, I trade him for a low-level prospect or that MVP player called cash considerations,
or PTBA,
right?
Player to be named later.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think again, this comes back to my early ardent support for him. I've seen worse players get traded for better prospects, right? Like I think we could. I trust in our front office to swindle someone out of some prospects. Just give Keegan a good month in AAA and then lift up his stock value, and there you go. Again, these are all hypotheticals.
Man, to be fair, I just had to look at it. To be fair, Keegan's got a 3.64 career ERA through 104 games, 5 saves and 23 starts.
Yeah, he's not terrible, man.
He's not.
I think a lot of it is situational, right? He has some good starts or good outings, and then
last year through 24 games.
Yeah. So we're just about wrapping up here, guys. I mean, overall. Again, next week we will have our prediction chat, which I'm excited about. I got all my algorithms and formulas and all that working together. I got my machine in the back over here, kind of printing out scenarios, and
man's got a Bitcoin mining machine set up back there, 3 GPU system and a couple switches.
And for those that like sports betting, I'm going to have my futures bets for the Cubs with odds and everything.
Listen. Let me tell you something. This is the cool thing. It's legal for me to talk about it in Florida.
Same in Illinois.
Because the Hard Rock Casino app is live and legal in Florida. And because they're the only app here that's available. So, hey, let's have a betting corner every week. And We'll
Georgia cannot.
We'll talk about real money because we can. Rob, you can talk about like peanuts or something, or like how many.
I mean, I can talk about it. I just can't place
the
bets myself.
So
I got no skin in the game. I'll throw out some wild nonsense.
Let's make sure we do some research on. Let's make sure we do some research on whatever disclaimers we'd have to say before we start talking about that.
And pro tip: if you're going to make a bet, double check your bet slip, because last summer I made a crazy bet in the Cubs game, and I swore to God I had the Cubs winning, but I actually had the Cubs losing. So I paraded around my local bar thinking I just won $1,000 on a crazy bet, and I look at my bet slip. I'm like, no.
Oh my God, you're one of those people. You're one of those.
After a few beers, I'm one of any people, honestly.
Except
for Sox fans.
Guys, we're not quite wrapping up because I do want to talk a little bit about our final episode, right? Before the season starts. I'm excited, man. I'm excited to get, once the season starts, I think we're brand new to this, but what we want to do is do, frequent game recaps. We're going to be doing a lot more, the technical term is micro content or whatever they call it. But just to like talk more about the season as it's going. So I'm excited for that. I mean, as we get into the final week before games start, let's just talk real quick. What was your overall takeaway from the spring, Rob? We'll start with you, just from the spring. And I by the way, I threw this on you guys without preparation. I apologize, but I'm curious coming down the pipeline here.
Total takeaway from the spring is that the guys we thought were going to be good are all pretty much meeting expectations, I'd say.
Yeah.
And there's a couple surprises. There's at least one or two surprises on our roster.
It's hard to complain with the results too. I mean, right
now.
Amen.
I don't really have any major complaints. Everybody's looked at least as good as I expected them to look.
Right.
Oh yeah.
Ethan, what about you, Ethan?
I just love having this problem where every day I'm thinking to myself, well, who's going to make the roster? Because there's so much talent. I remember drinking my sorrows away after another blown fucking save 100 times last year, it felt like. And now to just be like, and again, we have the problem with third base. Every single time Miles Masterboni or Nick Madrigal played a game at third base, part of me died. Part of me left my body and my soul. And now it's like, oh my God, I don't even know who's going to be the third baseman because we've got so many viable options right now. So to sum it up, I think I'm annoyingly optimistic about this season, and I'm just going to leave it at that.
I'm gonna throw this out there. First of all, I agree with you guys, but so my own take, I'm just very I'm really excited to get baseball back. As a fan of teams in the other three sports that are not good, I'm excited for who wants to watch this a team that I enjoy actually do well and play well. And by the way, I'm going to make one statement. I want you to say true or false. All right?
Okay.
Boog and JD are a great pairing, and they're great at their job. True or false?
Together, false. And I can't explain why. I think Boog is a little bit too much of a goofball for JD. I think JD does much better with Pat Hughes. I'm really excited to see Alex Cohen calling more games. He's a phenomenal broadcaster. Shout out Alex Cohen. Other than that, Boog goes on a little bit too many rants. Nice guy, great announcing voice. He's got the persona, but the side stories in the middle of a play-by-play have driven me insane the past couple years.
Rob, your thoughts?
I'm going to say true that they're both really good. Honestly, probably about the same as Ethan. True that they're both very good. Middle ground, whether they're good together. They have their moments.
I'm going to respectfully disagree. I think they're fucking hilarious. So anyway, with that,
I think I think they have their moments.
With
but
that,
I do understand Ethan's point.
Great chatting with you guys again. And one more time, this is the Ivy League A-Cubs podcast. Ethan, thanks from Illinois. Thank you very much. Rob from Georgia, Savannah, Georgia. I remembered this week.
Yeah.
What's that?
I just said, yeah, buddy.
Oh, okay. I am here. We have a time delay because I'm in Orlando, Florida. We will talk to you guys all next week, and hope you guys enjoy the show. Take care, everyone.
Thanks, everybody.
Have a good night, folks.